Hi guys, I'm Riley, and today we're going to be doing an embroidery project from start to finish on the Brother PE900 single needle embroidery machine. So to get started with embroidery, you'll need a couple tools. First, you're going to need a set of thread clippers, your pouch that comes with your Brother PE900, your thread that you want, along with a bobbin embroidery thread, the hoop that comes with your machine, a water-soluble marker or pencil, and some sort of a stabilizer. Today we're going to be using cutaway stabilizer. So the first thing we're going to do in order to start embroidering on this machine is we're going to need to wind some bobbin. So we have our little bobbin spool that comes with our machine. It comes in this little lovely case that comes with the whole thing. There's a bunch of fun tools in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this little spool and we'll set it right here on that machine and we'll turn it to the right. And that tells the machine here that it's ready to wind bobbin instead of embroidering. So once you've set your bobbin spool into the correct position, you're going to want to put your bobbin thread on the machine, on the spool, with the medium-sized thread cap that comes with the machine. At this point, we're going to thread this halfway through the spool here, up and over, and then under the metal tension plate that is on this machine. So I have to block it here just for a sec. So we want this to go up and in here, and then underneath this tension spool and around counterclockwise once until it pulls through steadily and obviously doesn't get stuck on anything. So once you're pulled through for your tension on your bobbin thread, you're going to take this extra thread and spool it around your spool about 5 to 6 times going clockwise, just to make sure that it's set on there. And then we'll take it underneath our little cap here, and that's going to cut our excess bobbin and keep that in place. At this point, we should be set to start winding our bobbin, and all I need to do here is touch our arrow, and it should be orange, set for the bobbin. And that's just going to run through and fill up our case with the bobbin that we'll need for the project. Once the bobbin spool is almost full, the machine will automatically slow down on its own, and that's when we know that we can press our button again and stop it and be ready. Now I saw my spool just getting a little bit full. It didn't start slowing down just yet, but it's as full as I want it to be, so I'm just going to stop it and cut it off. At this point, you can move your bobbin spool to the left, and that's going to change the color of our arrow here and let us know that the machine is now in embroidery mode and not bobbin winding mode. You just easily pull your spool off, and we're ready to put that bobbin into the machine. So now we're going to take our bobbin spool and come down here to the bobbin house on our machine. So pull this little lever here. It's going to get this, pop it up for us, take this off, set it somewhere safe, don't forget about it. And then we're going to take our bobbin spool and place it in there, real gentle. And now there's a whole set of arrows that this machine makes it super easy just to thread your bobbin. So we're going to pull it through those arrows, make sure it goes underneath those grooves as much as possible. And then there's a blade at the end that will cut your excess thread. That's how you know you've wound yourself correctly. And at that point, you'll take your cover, put it right back on, snap it in place, and you're ready for the next step. So this machine takes a regular USB drive to put your artwork onto the machine. There's a port on the right side of the machine, and this machine takes .pes files, which is a file type that we will make for you here at Heat Transfer Warehouse. So all I'm going to do is take my USB, plug it in to the port on the right side of the machine, and once your USB is plugged into the machine, your file will come up and you'll be able to kind of see your artwork on there. And you're just going to want to select that file and press set. And now your file is on your machine and ready to be moved around on your hoop and centered on your garment. The next step of this process is going to be hooping your garment. So we're doing kind of a fun little middle chest placement on this crew neck, kind of just center chest, about a hand down from that neckline. So we're going to use this lovely blue Gildan crew neck. I really like this color. I'm super excited about it. And we'll use the hoop, the extra large hoop that comes with the machine. And this is hooping guide that also comes with the machine. Makes it really easy to get a really nice center placement. And then we'll also just need a basic piece of stabilizer. So this is a 2.2 ounce cutaway stabilizer. A fun trick to make it easier to center your design, especially on something like a hoodie or a crew neck, is to have your garment folded in half by that center collar line so that you can make yourself a little bit of a seam here and kind of crease that down just a little bit. And that's gonna make your center point a lot easier to find once you lay it flat. Now at that point, I'm just going to lay this completely flat, as much as I can. And I'm gonna take my water-soluble marker or pencil, whatever you have, whatever works. I'm gonna use my fat side a little bit, and I'm gonna take my hand as my measurement point at this, and I'm gonna do top of that collar and center on that seam that we just made. Just there. And I'm just gonna eyeball that, kind of make sure that it's in a good spot, isn't gonna look off to the side or awkward or anything crazy. So once we're happy with that, flatten ourselves out a little bit more. And at this point, I'm gonna use this super helpful little hooping guide that comes with the machine. And I'm gonna use this little center point here and line that up with the mark that I just made on the sweatshirt. And that's gonna kind of show me where I'm gonna put that hoop on the inside of the sweatshirt. So at that point, you're gonna take the bottom of your hoop, and that's the part that has the attachments for the machine and this lovely little spoolie thing. It's gonna help us out later. So at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the hoop on the inside of the machine, separate it, and I'm gonna line it up best I can with that guide that I just put on there. So this is the point that's really important. You wanna make sure that it's as straight as possible. So double checking and triple checking, gonna be your best friend. So here, I'm just gonna make sure I'm nice and straight. Even adjusting your garment is really helpful at this point too, because it's easier to move the sweatshirt than it is to move the hoop. So once I feel like I'm nice and straight here, and I'm lined up in the spot that I want to be, I will take my guide off, and you can kind of see the outline of your hoop in there, which is gonna help you out. Set your guide aside, grab your piece of stabilizer, and this stabilizer is cut about an inch around, or a little more than an inch around the size of this hoop. That's just gonna give us a lot of good excess so that we don't have to worry about the stabilizer falling out. So to make this easier for myself, I fold it in half, and then you just wanna gently lift your sweatshirt. You don't wanna move your hoop because you just got that really good placement. You don't wanna move it again. And just kind of gently move your sweatshirt and place that backing in there. It's hard to see, sorry about that. But it's kind of a blind process anyways. So you just wanna make sure that all the edges of that hoop are covered by that cutaway stabilizer. And at that point, smooth out your sweatshirt again. Get yourself nice and flat so you can see that hoop outline again. Once we're good there, double check your hoop placement, make sure you didn't shimmy, make sure it didn't get crooked in that process, because sometimes that happens. Totally okay. And then, again, just practicing the double checking. I'm gonna take my guide again and make sure I didn't move around too much. Still looks pretty good. Now, at this point, take the top of your hoop. This one's the one that has nothing else really attached to it, just these tabs. And you'll know it's the front because there are these lovely arrows at the top and bottom that are in there. So at this point, I'm just gonna place this on top of here and do my best to just kind of push it in. You'll need to use a little bit of force. And you just want your fabric, you don't want it tight, you still wanna be able to move it with your finger here. So once I'm good and placed in there, I'm double checking, making sure I'm really nice and straight on here. Looks good. And at this point, I'm gonna turn my garment inside out. So if I do this, you can kind of see the inside of that hoop here. And you can push this down a little bit more. You kind of want that top hoop to be as flush with the bottom of this hoop as much as you can. And then here, I'm gonna take this lovely spool that I talked about earlier, and I'm just going to tighten it until it's about hand tight. There are tools that come in your kit that you can use to tighten it up even more if you don't have super strong fingers, because it can kind of hurt. But hand tight is all you need. Doesn't need to be anything super crazy. All right, now once I'm nice and tightened up, the thing that we're looking for with our backing in the back is this lovely little drum sound. Super fun. So once you have your placement all set and you're all tightened, sometimes I like to hold my garment up and make sure that hoop is as straight as possible based on where the shoulder seams are. And that looks pretty good to me. You can see my center point mark there. So let's put it on the machine. So our next step before we put our hoop on the machine is we need to thread the first color of our design. So today we're gonna start with this super beautiful brown, and we'll just unspool that end of that thread, and we'll set it right here on our thread spool. Now the caps for these types of spools, it's called a king cap, and again, is in our handy dandy little pack. So this is the king cap I'm going to use. This is just gonna hold our spool in the machine so we don't go flying all over the place. All right, just put that right in there, nice and easy. Doesn't have to be super tight, otherwise your spool won't move at all. And now you're gonna take this spool thread. The PE900 makes this really easy to do. All you're gonna do is follow the arrows that are already set on the machine. So it gives you step 1, 2, 3, and 4. So follow those best you can. You shouldn't have any problems. Once you're down at the bottom here at step 5, step 6 is a little bit difficult to find. It's gonna be right on your needle case in the back. So do your best to find that. Your manual will show you exactly where it is as well, but there's also a lovely little 6 down there to help you out. So we'll set that behind there. All right, once I'm hooked in, the PE900 has a really cool little function where it's gonna thread your needle for you, which, amazing, whole lot less work for me. I'm just gonna set it up through these grooves. Those steps continue into 7 and 8. So you're gonna follow 7 and all the way to the cutter on the side. And that's gonna cut your thread. And you're gonna come up here, push this little lever, and you're threaded. Super easy. So at that point, I'm gonna take my thread, and I'm gonna pull out just a couple inches of it, just to make sure we don't have any problems with it sticking anywhere. I'm just shoving it in the back, out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. So at this point, we are threaded, and we can put our hoop on our machine. This is going to be a little bit awkward, and you're gonna have a bit of excess fabric all over the place, but trust the process, and it'll look just fine. So you're gonna find the inside of your hoop here. These edges here are what are going to connect to your machine. So you're gonna want to kind of feed the fabric, make sure your presser foot is up as well, my bad. And you're gonna feed this fabric underneath that presser foot really gently. You don't wanna break your needle or your presser foot or anything. Come all the way through, and that hoop is just gonna fit really nicely under there, as long as you don't have anything bunching and anything like that, which I do. Come on, there we go. So once that's in there like that, first thing you're gonna wanna do is secure the hoop on the machine, and then you can kinda screw around with making sure that that fabric isn't gonna get sewn on. So put your hoop on. Going to clip on these edges here. There are a couple sides. First the back, and then the front, and then push in to secure. Just like that. Feel that little pop, and you're set. So at this point you can kind of see there's a lot of fabric happening here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try to help ourselves out a little bit and spread it out. And really just making sure that there's no fabric on the backing underneath your hoop that's touching the machine. So that means you're gonna sew right through, and that's not fun. So just kind of feeling around, making sure there's no fabric underneath, checking the back. And then also just making sure that the hoop in front is not disrupted by any fabric either. I think we're good. So once your hoop is on and you're all set, there's no fabric underneath or anything like that that's gonna get sewn through, you're going to come back to your screen here. This design is currently set to embroider straight on, and we have our hoop set kind of not straight on like that. So this machine's really cool. You can go to this little button here that says rotate, and I'm gonna do a 90 degree, and that's gonna kind of rotate our design so that it fits the straight way on our crew neck since we have it hooped sideways. So at this point, I'm gonna say okay. And then I'm gonna go to move. And at this point here, I'm gonna try to find that center point that I made with my marker earlier. And, all right, I found my center point, and I'm really making sure that the hole in the presser foot on the machine is as centered with that marker, that spot that I made, just so that it's easier. Small robot sounds. All right. So I'm lined up with that spot that I made now, and this machine also has a cool function where it will sort of show you the perimeter of your design, so you can make sure that you're not gonna hit your hoop and that it's gonna be centered on your garment as much as possible. So for this, I'm just gonna press this lovely button here, and it's gonna show us exactly where it's going to sew. And you're just making sure that that presser foot is not going to hit that hoop in any way. Perfect, that's a great spot. All right. So again, after your hoop moves like that, you might want to double check on the inside just to make sure none of that fabric kind of like scooched under there or like slid in like a little creep or anything like that. So double checking, it's the name of the game. All right, and once we're set there, we'll say okay if you're happy with your placement and everything. And then we'll go to this little button here that says embroidery. And at that point, your machine is gonna be almost ready. The last thing we need to do, lower our presser foot, which is a lovely little latch in the back, super easy to find. And that's gonna turn our button green. And it's gonna tell us that we're ready to embroider. So all I'm gonna do is press start. After the first couple of stitches, I like to stop the machine and use the needle lift button and my thread clippers and just sort of go in and cut off that large piece of excess thread that we had hanging off from before. Just gonna make my job a lot easier later for trimming. And then just press start again. Now she's gonna go. And we wait. So the machine has stopped and has told me that it's ready for its next color change. I have a little bit of a trick just from my experience with embroidery that makes these color changes a little bit easier. Instead of having to re-thread the entire machine, a super easy trick is you're gonna pull your thread out of your needle here and kind of pull some of it through just so you have some excess. And then you're gonna lift up that presser foot and you'll take your spool off here, thread cap included. Take that cap off of that old thread spool and give yourself just a little bit of slack here and cut that thread off. Now, as you can see, you're still threaded in your machine, and all we're gonna do is put on our new thread spool. So unspool that, again, excess here, put that thread spool back on, cap it, and then you're gonna tie these two lovely ends that you pulled out together. So just a super easy one little knot will do. And at that point, you'll take the excess thread that you pulled from your needle and you're just gonna gently pull it through the machine. And that'll come down. Saves you a lot of time with production. So at that point, you can just cut off the excess brown thread, throw it away. You don't need it anymore. So let's say goodbye to that. Thank you so much. And then at this point, you're following the process just like threading, except you're only following the needle thread process at the end. So we're just going to put it into the right little spots, 7 and 8, and cut our thread here. And then push that lever down, and we're threaded and ready to go again. So we'll pull a little bit of that excess out like we did before, lower that presser foot so that our lovely embroidery light turns green, and then we'll press to go again. And then of course, stopping after the first few stitches just to save myself trimming time. Here we go. That was quick. So now it's gonna shimmy and tell us that it's ready for the next thread change. So that process is just gonna get completed again. So do what you did before, give yourself that excess, lift that presser foot, and change out your thread spool. So once your machine is done with your design, it will tell you right here that it's finished embroidering, and you can say, awesome, thank you so much, okay. And at that point, you can lift up your presser foot and kind of move all your fabric out of the way here. And there's a lovely little metal tab here on the edge that is right next to the securing for the hoop. And you're just gonna push on that and then kind of push the back of the hoop up, and it'll pop right out of there. So now this hoop is no longer connected to the machine, and we'll just carefully, again, the same way we put it in, pull it through and make sure none of that excess fabric breaks that presser foot or that needle or anything like that. Just really gently pull it through until it's all the way out. And now we have our lovely little design. You can see here that it's got these little tails in between, and those are just jump stitches. So the next step of our process is gonna be trimming those off and just generally trimming it up, making it look really pretty. So first, before we do that, we're gonna flip it inside out and upside down and see the back of our hoop here. Go back to our little spool and just sort of unscrew it, loosen it up a little bit so that it's not so hard to get off, because in theory it should be tight enough that you shouldn't be able to pull it off. And then once it's loose enough, just pop it right off, and you've got this part of your hoop, and kind of pull the front off, and you're done with that. So now, let's get to trimming. So once you have your bundle of a crew neck that should be done being sewn, you're gonna take a look at all this excess backing you've got here. It's good that we had this here because we need that stabilization in order to make sure we don't have any screw ups with the machine. But at this point here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna find yourself just a regular pair of craft scissors. Pretty sure we have one back here. Convenient. And we're just gonna kind of trim it about, it's kind of up to you, it's a personal preference thing. I usually do about 1/4 of an inch around the embroidery just to make it super comfortable to wear, not itchy or anything crazy like that. So just going to be pulling the backing away from the fabric on your garment just to make sure you don't accidentally cut into that garment, because I've done that before and it's not fun. So just gonna take our pair of scissors, and again, this is cut away, not tear away. It's in the name. Please don't tear cut away off. I will cry. And just kind of cutting it, again, just loosely about 1/4 of an inch around the embroidery, just so it looks nice. And just so you know, your backing will be a little bit stiff right after embroidery. It's made to be like that, but after your first wash, it should be just fine. Just do a big old trim all the way around. And just throw away this excess. You don't need it. Alrighty, so now, if you want to, you can cut off all these little tails in the back. That's another kind of personal preference thing. Sometimes they can be a little bit itchy, but if you're not planning on wearing the crew neck with no shirt underneath, you probably won't notice that much. But I'm just going to clip a couple of the really long ones off so that they're not all ugly. All right, and now flip her inside out, and this is the true test. We'll see if we're straight on our crew neck here and not crooked, not anything crazy like that. Ready? Big reveal. Washa! So pretty much centered there, pretty good placement, about a hand down there. You can see that there's a little bit of a line all the way around that design from our hoop. It's what we call hoop burn. And it's something that's super easily, you can get rid of it, just straight up spray it with a little bit of water, or even just run your hand under the tap and sprinkle it over the top. Let it dry, it'll go away. So now, taking our thread clippers, we're just gonna go to town, and we're just gonna trim off all these lovely little tails and stuff. Of course, being very gentle, making sure we're not, cutting our garment yet again. We want it to just look nice and trimmed. All right, and that's pretty much it, y'all. So now we are all nice and trimmed. If you have any frayed thread on there, you can just take like a lint roller, pull it off. Well, you'll have little bits of thread that kind of chill out. Oop, missed a spot. Woohoo. Beautiful. So now we have our lovely Itasca State Park in full color, unlike our previous attempt here. And there we go. If you're just getting started with your embroidery journey, I really recommend the Brother PE900. It is super cool and you're able to make really cool designs with it. We had a lot of fun with it here today. If you like videos like this, subscribe to our channel, and thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.